Warning. The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect that of the HHN TV or its constituent entities. Furthermore, some parents may not find this content suitable for children as it contains explicit language and subject matter. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello, everybody. I'm Drew Duncan. The show's fired up, and we are live. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram is all at Drew Duncan Radio. I am wherever you are listening to podcasts. Tell your device to play Fired Up by Drew Duncan on iTunes, iHeart. Wherever you're listening, I am there. Plenty to get to today. We're going to be talking about Hassan Reddick a little bit later on in the program. He has officially requested a trade from the Jets. We're going to be talking about Bill Belichick and what he had to say about his job offer with the 49ers. We're going to be talking about Jayden Daniels, more preseason NFL football. In the meantime, in between time, he is the owner of Feel Good. He is my A1 since day one, my brother from another mother. He is the owner of Block 50 Radio, WBFR, which is live 24/7, 365 at block50radio.com. He is on to talk all things Atlanta's Falcons, Dion. He is DJ Dr. Feelgood, a.k.a. P-Dub, a.k.a. Philip Wilcher. My man, I appreciate you being on today, Broham.
Hey, man, I appreciate you having me. It's been a long time coming, man. Long time coming. We've been talking about doing this for a while now.
Full circle moment, my man. Kind of takes me back to when we were 16, 17 years old. My first DJ gig at ZFM, my man. Remember them days, bro?
Listen, man, we sit in the studio 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, acting a fool. Yeah, I remember them days, man.
Yeah, just kicking it, Broham. Just kicking it. Speaking
and
of
now
what,
look at us. We full circle. You know, I run a radio station. You're back in radio. It's been a lot of fun. It's fun to see where we came from to where we're at.
I know that's right, my man. Look, like I said, you're a huge Atlanta Falcons fan. They get Kirk Cousins. They go ahead and draft Michael Penix Jr. Now, I'm going to be talking about this later. You know how I felt about it. I really felt like if Jayden Daniels was going to be available, maybe grab him, didn't trade up for him, whatever the case may be. Regardless, number one, how do you feel about Cousins being there? And number two, what do you think about the draft from Penix Jr.?
So I think the Cousins move. So when I first heard about it, I was a little skeptical. I was actually a little upset. But then I thought about it. You know, you look at the resume of Kirk Cousins, who I've called basically a professional hitman. He's more of a mercenary than anything, because he went 3 or 4 years where he was for his franchise tag. You know how that works. He's just basically going to the highest bidder. But I liked him going to Atlanta, especially before the draft when they had while we had Ritter. I'm sorry. I thought that he was going to go there, you know, and be able to teach these kids how to be a professional NFL quarterback. And then the draft happened, and I was like, okay, this is stupid. Like, now I don't understand what we're doing in Atlanta. So I'm really hoping that he gets there and he's able to teach these kids what it means to be a NFL quarterback. Because let's be very, very clear. We ain't winning nothing. We ain't winning nothing for a little while. We have been in flux for at least the last 6 years, 7 years. So right now it's just about laying the foundation. I think Cousins is the right guy to do it, versus, you know, just letting the kids go out there and lose confidence as a loser.
Well, I will say this, in terms of stylistically, because I know people are going to look at Penix Jr. and say to themselves, look, he's just a scrambling quarterback. To me, if there's anybody that's got a style that's comparable to Kirk Cousins in terms of how he moves in the pocket and his patience and all those things, I think it's Penix Jr. because people forget that he was in the Big Ten. He knows how to work the play action very good, which is really Kirk Cousins' strong suit. So for my money, I like the draft, and I think Penix Jr. is in maybe one of the best situations in all the NFL simply because there's a good potential that he could just sit back and learn. You think about all the quarterbacks that got to do that: Donovan McNabb, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love, and we see it come to fruition. But I guess the bigger picture is, why are we not patient enough in today's NFL?
Well, that's because the landscape of the NFL over the last 15 years has been one where all they're trying to do is generate money. They grab these guys from college who have hype behind them, Trevor Lawrence, Trey Lance, and we put them in a position where, I think we can say it started maybe with Tim Tebow. I think that was probably the apex of it all. Tim Tebow, who some believe was not an NFL quarterback. Some people believe he's the next. You're going to love this one, the next John Elway. You had a lot of people clamoring to see him play, and because of the pressure of the crowd, they threw him in, and Tim Tebow did what Tim Tebow does. You fast forward that and juxtapose it to what's going on now in the NFL, and it's really we're spending a lot of resources getting these quarterbacks into our system, and we want to get our bang for our buck ASAP. We've stopped trying to develop quarterbacks, and you see what happens. You see what happened to Trey Lance. His career is not starting off as well as everybody would have hoped. But then you look at somebody like Jordan Love, who was able to sit back and learn from Aaron Rodgers for a couple of years, and he goes out and he balls out. So the NFL as a business is really just focused on the dollars and the viewership and the teams and their owners. I think there's only maybe a handful of owners who are actually interested in winning games versus selling tickets to be at games, if that makes any sense.
No, it does. And, here's the thing. You've heard me obviously a million times say, look, here's the problem with the NFL. It's the illusion of safety, right? The hip drop tackle. It happened 1.31% of the time. At the end of the day, it's all about doing whatever you can to protect an asset and sell tickets. And there's no bigger asset than the quarterback on any football team. They are still the megastars, regardless of whether or not everybody wants to turn receivers or whomever into something that they're not. At the end of the day, it is still on the person who takes the snap. That's just a bottom line scenario. Now, in terms of Atlanta, obviously they made a lot of offseason moves, right? Kirk Cousins, you draft a quarterback. Now Raheem Morris is your new head coach, defensive coordinator. Did Aaron Donald make him look better than he is, or is he legitimate? Me personally, I don't think there was anything wrong with Atlanta's defense a season ago. I think it was the inability of the offense to get going. They misused Bijan Robinson to me, which, according to some reports that were out there, it looks like maybe he was just being lazy sometimes. But regardless, are you a fan? Because supposedly the Falcons went after Bill Belichick and went ahead and decided to move forward with Raheem Morris.
So I think that's actually a funny question about Aaron Donald making him look good. So I think the defense was solid. I think they were trending in the right direction. They weren't the greatest, but they weren't the worst. I think when you have somebody like Aaron Donald, when you coach somebody like Aaron Donald, then obviously he's going to make you look great because he's a generational talent. But I don't think that he's out of his depth. I think he's going to be able to take this core group and get them to be the best versions of themselves. I agree with you. I think it's the offense that dragged the team down more than anything.
We're talking to the owner of Block 50 Radio, WBFR, block50radio.com is up and live 24/7, 365. He is my brother from another mother, my man, P-Dub. We are live on the Hip Hop Network. Download the HHN TV app on any device. Listen anytime, anywhere. Look, I think for me, the last thing I want to go with the Atlanta Falcons is the receiving core, right? Obviously, you're good at tight end. That's not an issue. And they went ahead and exercised the fifth-year option already on him. So at the end of the day, Chris Blair, he had a fumble already in the preseason, maybe working out some of those kinks. But would you maybe have liked to have seen, instead of a quarterback, maybe work harder on the receiving core than they did?
Absolutely, 1,000%. So Drake London, I watched a little bit of him, and I think last year he did a pretty solid job. I think he had about 900 yards receiving. Solid hand, very, very solid hand. But I think we lack a true number one receiver. Drake London doesn't have the speed. I think Darnell Mooney, he's not a route runner. He runs very sloppy routes, but that's just personal opinion. And when you draft a guy named Ray, I think you already know what you're getting. Okay? You get a guy on your team named Ray. Ray is just going to do what Ray want to do. He ain't listening to nobody. So I would have loved to have seen us spend the resource on getting a true number one wide receiver. But with the way we fumbled the bag with Julio Jones, it makes all the sense in the world on why we didn't draft a receiver, because we just don't know what the hell we're doing in our front office. I would have rather seen either a wide receiver or personally a premier defensive back. That seems to be if there's a weak spot on that defensive side, then it is definitely in the cornerback or safety position.
And that's from a guy who played cornerback. Never forget that game, bro. Tip drill, my man took it back all the way for the pick six.
Listen, man, I'll tell you what, because I know he's going to get brought up in conversation a little bit later. The only reason I even started playing football was because of Deion Sanders. And it's funny because as braggadocious as Deion used to be, I was 1,000 times worse with half the talent.
Look, speaking of Coach Prime, I've already said my piece on this, obviously, on the show yesterday. I did a short on it on Friday as soon as I saw the interview. Coach Prime, he was asked a very simple question. Look, when your big three basically leave, your two kids and Hunter, what are you going to do? And he could have just said, I don't know, I'm not sure, yes or no. I mean, any number of things. Instead, he goes on this completely other tangent about being a dad and a leader of men and everything else. Did he fumble the bag with that answer? Because to me, I hear that and I go, as soon as they're gone, he's dipping.
Oh, this is a real question. Listen, man, Deion Sanders is the master of misdirection. And it is a beautiful thing to watch, because what happens is, it truly is. He's a master. And I really wish people would do a study on the way he answers questions, or in this case, doesn't answer questions. Because what he does is you'll ask a question like that, and he'll go on this whole misguided conversation about something that ain't got nothing to do with the question.
Nothing.
And the talking points then become whatever it is he's talking about, and we forget that we even asked this question. And we're upset, and we what baffles me is that he answered the question the way he answered it. The talking points became about whatever it is he was talking about, and then everybody was mad because Deion didn't answer the question. But nobody re-asked the question to get a better answer. So Deion Sanders is out. I'm going to call it right here, right now. When his sons decide to take off for the NFL or rap career or whatever the heck they're going to do, and Travis decides he wants to go back to his mom's place and continue being a professional gamer, Deion's out of it. I think Deion is just really trying to show, and I don't think there's any malice to it, and I don't think there's much wrong with it. I think what Deion is showing is that if you really, as a coach, believe in the way you coach, believe in your own philosophy, that you can go from a relative unknown, what was it? FSU's a D2, D3. You could be a coach at a small school in a non-existent conference, and be a D1 premier coach if that's what you want to do. I just know that anybody who believes Deion Sanders is staying in Colorado is definitely partaking in Colorado product, if you will.
So here's my thing, and this is, I think, what the part of what a lot of people are missing, and I think that this is very fair to say. If Deion does dip directly after, where does that leave Colorado? Because he's got the program set completely up different from anybody else in the country. Who in the absolute hell could you legitimately bring in and go, okay, this guy can keep doing what Prime was doing? Literally nobody. There is nobody out there that can keep it going the way that Prime can do it. And to me, he will have come in, what people are going to say is he wrecked the joint and then bounced. And I think that could be a very fair assessment depending on how things go. If he actually does dip out afterwards, and then what does that say about Prime? And then what does that say about his kids? And I mean, theirs is going to, and here's the thing, Prime is mad at CBS because they ran a smear campaign on his son when he was, 15 years old or something like that, about filing for bankruptcy and all this other stuff.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
He's still mad at them for that. What is he going to say if he actually does this? What excuse could he potentially even have? I mean, the only logical situation would be going to the NFL and being a head coach there. That would be, to me, his only scapegoat.
I don't think that's what he wants to do. I don't think he has any aspirations of going to the NFL. I think Deion Sanders did exactly what LeBron James did for his son. And that is, his son said, I want to play in the NFL. And he goes, all right, well, my name is Deion Sanders. I'll get you there. And he did everything in his power to get his son into the NFL. I'm not sitting here saying that neither one of his sons are talented enough to, or are not talented enough to play in the NFL. I'm simply saying that Shedeur definitely is.
Yeah, Shedeur definitely is.
But I think with Deion by his side every step of the way, it's pretty much a foregone conclusion that he's going to the league. As far as the state of Colorado, so I guess that is a matter of perspective, because I believe, and this is just me, I believe that Deion Sanders has done more good for that program than anybody in the last 10 years.
Oh, I agree.
Nobody gave a damn about Colorado football before Deion got there. Deion has put more NIL money into that program than any alumni has ever thought about putting into that program. There are more eyes on that program than ever before, especially after his, the first 3 games? First 2 games he won. First 2 games he won last year, everybody was over the moon about Colorado and the Buffaloes. So I think the program itself is going to be in a better position when he leaves than it was before he got there. Now, as far as who's going to be able to continue that, who's going to be able to take that ball and run with it, I agree with you. Absolutely nobody. When Deion leaves, that program is going to survive off the strength of his name for maybe another year, and then it's going to go right back. It's going to get invited to the same bowl game it's been getting invited to before Deion got there, and that's the toilet bowl. So,
oh man, real quick here, P, because we got to take a break. The new kickoff. I'm sure you've seen that thing. Obviously, like I said, it started with the XFL. And by the way, the XFL, they merged with the USFL. They're now the UFL. They're not even doing it anymore. Again, they claimed it was for safety reasons. The NFL is saying the same thing, but we want to keep the play entertaining, blah, blah, blah. What do you think about the new kickoff? And then, of course, the onside kick where you got to check in with the official now. And you can only do it in the fourth quarter, and you have to be losing.
I think it's all stupid. I really do. I understood why we got rid of the wedge block for in the NFL for the kickoff. I got that because as a guy who played football and got wrecked on kickoffs because of the wedge block, I get it. But I think this is just kind of asinine. If the XFL, who is a lesser league, and the UFL, who are also a lesser league than the NFL, if they abandon the kickoff, then why in the world would you, as the football giant, think this was a good idea?
Right. Yeah, I think that sums it up right there. He is Philip Wilcher, a.k.a. DJ Dr. Feelgood, a.k.a. my A1 since day one, my brother from another mother. He is the owner of Block 50 Radio, WBFR. Block50radio.com is live 24/7, 365. My man P, as I do with all of my guests, I give them an opportunity to say whatever it is that's on their mind. There's no right or wrong answer here. The floor is 100% yours, my man.
Listen, guys, man, I appreciate you having me on the show. You're doing great work. Guys, if you get an opportunity, go ahead and tune into the Block 50 Radio. It's the place where you hear the most independent artists. That's just what we do, man. Drew, keep doing your thing, baby. I love the show. I love everything about what you got going on. And it has been an honor and a pleasure to be on here with you.
No doubt, man. I appreciate you 100, my man. I'll be hollering at you later on. So Bill Belichick goes on the Pat McAfee show. He gets asked, hey, man, supposedly you were offered a gig with Frisco. And in that gig with Frisco, you were supposedly said, hey, anything you want, whatever you want to do. Do you want to be a defensive coordinator? Do you want to come over here and just hang out with us? Do you want to give us some advice? What would you like to do with Frisco? And, of course, Bill Belichick did what Bill Belichick does. He goes, well, out of respect, and I love the family and learned a lot from them, and blah, 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 blah. You know, why can't anybody just say what the hell's really on their mind anymore? If you're afraid of the backlash, then just don't go on TV. How about that? What backlash are you going to get? What were you offered the head coaching job over Shanahan? Look, I don't know that 49er fan, first of all, would have had a problem with losing Kyle Shanahan. Let's just keep it a buck. He's 0-3 in Super Bowls. He's known for literally everything in Super Bowl history you don't want to be known for. Blowing big leads. Losing in overtime. Not running the football when necessary. Now, look, to be fair, the first time the 49ers played against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl with Kyle Shanahan as their head coach, some of the play calls he made were on point because guys were open. Jimmy G fumbled the bag. It is not always 100% on the coach. Everything is risk-reward, my man. Sometimes you got to take risks. Now, the Super Bowl in Atlanta, or with Atlanta, no, that's at the end of the day, people can blame him, but it's still a head coaching problem as well, too. Hey, we're not doing that. You psycho? You see what the score is? You see what part of the game we're in? No, we're going to start running the football here. We're going to start milking this clock now. And please do not forget about that catch by Julian Edelman. Come on. There were a lot of other factors in that game. The point of what I'm saying is he's been a part of the wrong side of Super Bowl history pretty much his entire career. Overthinking it, not keeping it simple, whatever the case may be. And then you have Belichick, to a lot of people who is still a proven winner. And to be honest, if you gave him a stacked roster like what's in Frisco, plus the defense that they've already got set up, and Bill Belichick is a mastermind at defense, I'll give him that all day, every day. Then what's to miss? And they're trying to win a Super Bowl. Now, let's get all the BS out of the way and say that they just wanted him there. Hey, man, we want you to be a defensive coordinator. We want you to, yeah. Well, if you're Bill Belichick, are you really willing to go from winning 6 Super Bowls to now I'm just a coordinator? You've been in control for so long of everything that goes on, right? And reportedly, the Atlanta Falcons were looking at him. As we talked about earlier on the program, the Falcons were looking at him. Supposedly, he didn't want all the control in Atlanta that he had while he was in New England. He was willing to peel back on some of that, and the Falcons still decided to reportedly go with, Raheem Morris. So, for my money, looking at this situation, it's hard to know what was really going on. Then you have people like myself. You have people like myself that say that Bill Belichick is basically trying to save his own face, that Bill Belichick is full of it, that I don't give a damn what kind of answer he gives, what kind of backhanded compliment he gives about out of respect, I'm not going to say anything. Respectfully, Bill Belichick, he has won 45% of all of his games without Tom Brady. It's just a fact. Whether anybody likes it or not, it is a cold, hard fact. Nobody is looking at Bill Belichick to be their head coach. Nobody has a team that they think to themselves, Bill Belichick can get us there. Yeah, sure, he could go to Kansas City, but he'd have Patrick Mahomes, right? But even then, does he know how to use a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes? Because he didn't know what to do with Cam Newton. One of the greatest defensive minds in all the NFL in history is Bill Belichick. I will give that to him all day, every day. And look, I'm not saying that people don't have to delegate responsibility. As a head coach, that's part of it. Ultimately, every decision goes through him anyways. Not all coordinators go on to be really, truly successful. And if I'm being fair, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, Tom Brady saved the coaching jobs of how many people? He saved, Josh McDaniels' job. He saved Bill Belichick's job. He saved Bruce Arians' job. And then whatever offensive coordinator they had at the time in Tampa Bay, which was probably Arians because he's supposed to be the offensive guru, right? A Tom Brady doesn't come around all the time. I know that they're not hanging around every street corner. And there are people that are out there, and what they love to say is, well, I just think it's foolish. Every coach needs a good quarterback, and every good quarterback still needs a coach. Really? John Elway dragged Dan Reeves kicking and screaming to 3 Super Bowls that Dan Reeves had no business coaching in. God rest Dan Reeves, okay? R.I.P. But we have to be honest. Dan Reeves told Pat Bowlen, it's me or Elway. You're never going to win a Super Bowl with this guy. Pat Bowlen made the executive decision to keep John Elway. Worked out pretty good, didn't it? By the way, Dan Reeves lost to John Elway in the last game that Elway ever played in the Super Bowl where he was the MVP. I understand that Reeves was battling cancer. He should have been coaching in the first place. For the majority of the season, he had allowed the other staff to take over. He decided to come in and coach the Super Bowl. That game might have gone completely different. He has never been able to win that game. Well, he got there. I hope you're not talking about that when it comes to LeBron James and you say that Jordan is the GOAT because LeBron got there 4 out of 10, 10 times and won 4 of them. He got there so many times. Well, Dan Reeves was consistently outcoached. Dan Reeves was consistently out of his depth. But he had a quarterback that he could rely on to save the day because he was that damn good. That's exactly what Bill Belichick had. That's what Andy Reid had in Donovan McNabb. Whether people want to like it or not, it is the truth. He's been to the Super Bowl with 2 different quarterbacks. Number 15 and number 5. That's it. They have made him look phenomenal. Don't forget about that blown lead that they did when they had Alex Smith. Huge game against Indianapolis Colts fan. Talk to Kansas City Chief fan about that. Even with the Super Bowl, some of them will tell you, no, that game still hurts, bro. We should have won that. My position has been for years that without Tom Brady, Bill Belichick is not good. And it came to fruition, and I knew that I'm not trying to brag here. Because at first, I was one of the biggest Tom Brady haters in all the world. Like, man, this guy's carried and deep. You start looking at it objectively. Time goes along, and you start really realizing. It was about 2015, I think, when I woke up and smelled the coffee. I was like, look, this guy, Brady is carrying this team. Well, they had that year where he was hurt and they still won 11 games. Which tells me with that football team, they probably would have won 13 or 14 with Brady. They did miss the playoffs, 11-5, which is why, again, I say you should take the 12 best teams and forget this AFC, NFC thing, because things like that happen. Happened to the Denver Broncos, several occasions, actually, with John Elway. Happened with the New England Patriots. Look, the bottom line of what I'm saying here is, what did Matt Castle do when he left New England and go to Kansas City? I'll wait. Bill Belichick, at the end of the day, is saving his own face. We're on to Cincinnati. Blah, blah, blah. Fine. He's always been this way. That's okay. The reality is, when it comes to these types of questions, he is saving his own face, what little legacy he has left. Because I think he is well aware that there are 2 things going on in the world. People are talking about him dating some young hottie. And people are saying, oh, wow, it's really nice to see Bill Belichick like this. So he's trying to move past the idea of Brady saved his ass. And he did. The New England Patriots had a losing season the year before with Bill Belichick as their coach. They weren't looking any better until Brady came in. Drew Bledsoe getting hurt is the best thing that has ever happened to that organization. Boy, Hassan Reddick. First of all, $1.7 million as of yesterday is what this man has paid out in not showing up. Matter of fact, the only time Hassan Reddick has even stepped foot on the Jets facility is for his introductory press conference and to get a physical. Literally, that has been it. And it's crazy to think that how this all started was the Jets. They lost their sack leader, Bryce Hurt, to the Eagles in free agency. And so they were like, we got to do something. So Hassan Reddick became available in a trade, and that was how they acquired him. Look, here's the thing. Supposedly, there was an understanding between all parties that Hassan was just going to show up, do his thing. He was going to play out the final year of his contract. No big deal. The Jets, however, had supposedly said, yes, we will get a deal done before the season starts. Supposedly, they offered him a contract. They didn't give it to him. And there you go. Now they're saying that they don't want to do anything with anybody who's not there. They said that their stance and their position has been clear from the beginning. Look, we're not negotiating right now. By the way, he missed out on a potential 250K, 350K. All he had to do was show up and do a workout. Missed that bonus. Now, to be fair, Hassan Reddick in the last 4 seasons has been 4th overall in the NFL in total sacks. He is chasing the same bag that everybody else is getting. And look, I've always said that I don't have an issue with players holding out. I don't have an issue with anybody going after what they're worth, what they want, what they think they should be making, what they think they should have. It's none of our business. I've never said there's not been any risk involved. Because the Jets have made this very clear. We are going to hold firm on our position. Look, I really think the Jets probably should have got it done. And I'm going to keep it a buck. The way that they have handled the Aaron Rodgers situation, and that's exactly what it is a situation, has opened the door for this. Aaron Rodgers doesn't have to play because it's raining. So, no, he doesn't have to practice. Aaron Rodgers decided he just wasn't going to show up. It's unexcused, but it's fine, bro. He told me he had something going on. I told him it's unexcused. He didn't show up. It is what it is. It's cool. We're not really worried about it. Oh, Aaron Rodgers wants to go off and get high in the middle of the desert in a tree. It's fine. Who cares? Oh, Aaron Rodgers now, even though he's not going to be playing at all, wants to be on the sideline with headphones helping us make decisions and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, sure, go ahead. Do it, Aaron. We're fine with it, bro. Hassan Reddick comes along and goes, I don't feel like I'm going to play unless I get a new contract. They're like, wrong. How does anybody make that make sense? Well, Aaron Rodgers is blah, blah, blah. Do not tell me that Hassan Reddick is not valuable. And in fact, do not tell me that he is potentially more valuable right now than Aaron Rodgers. You know why? Because Hassan Reddick has been available to play. Aaron Rodgers got hurt and didn't last 5 plays a season ago. Now, you can call it a freak accident or whatever the hell you want to. You can blame the turf. You can say whatever. Nobody knows how healthy Aaron Rodgers really is. Nobody. Aaron Rodgers can get on TV and say, if we had a chance to make the playoffs, I would have figured out a way to play. He can do that all damn day long if he wants to. I really do not care. I don't listen to much of anything what that man has to say. I think he's one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game in this era. But as far as what he says and what he does and all this other BS, I could care less. You have opened up the door for this situation, and you don't even think that you have. You don't think that other players look around and see how other players conduct themselves and then not expect to get the exact same treatment? Because while I understand that quarterback and defense are 2 different things, understand that defense still wins championships. Don't believe me? Ask the 85 Bears. Don't believe me? Ask the New York Giants. Don't believe me? Ask the Denver Broncos. You think that Hassan Reddick isn't as important. Maybe not as important, but he still matters a whole hell of a lot. Because if Aaron is having a bad game, the offense isn't clicking, the run game with Breece Hall's not there, whatever the hell's going on, they are going to rely on that defense very much the way that they did a season ago. The reality is he is a necessity. And he's going after what he wants. Again, I'm not saying that I 100% agree, but I'm not saying that I disagree either. It is what it is. We'll see how this all plays out. Chris Jones held firm a season ago, and when Detroit when Detroit beat Kansas City, they made a move. And it was kind of bizarre to me because I thought, the defense didn't play bad. They really didn't. It was the offense that couldn't put it together. And it was an interception off of a drop pass from Tony that ended up being the difference in that ball game. Because Detroit took that thing back for 6. So that ended up being the difference maker. So for me, bottom line here is he's a necessity. I didn't say there's no risk, but we'll see what the reward is, if any. Right now, Brody is in the negative, and the money that he had coming to him this year was non-guaranteed. So if he sits out and all he does is lose money, the man is racking up debt. It is what it is. All right, real quick here, more preseason NFL football. Jane Daniels, did anybody see the absolute dot that he threw to Brown? Look, the first time I saw him play at LSU against Florida State, I knew right then that he was NFL ready. And I didn't think that there was a more NFL ready quarterback that season or the next than Jane Daniels. I've said it before, I'll say it again. If Jane Daniels were to swap places with Bo Nix, Oregon would have been competing for a national championship. LSU would have been sitting at home with a 6-6 record with Bo Nix as their quarterback. And if you don't believe me, then ask yourself this. What did he do when he was at Auburn? Go ahead, I'll wait. Bucky Irving in the run game controlled that offense. And he doesn't have the cannon for the deep ball. Not accurately. And then, of course, we saw the option TD. Washington giving everybody a little bit of a look at the entire package, which is Jane Daniels. He's a damn good quarterback, and he's the most NFL-ready quarterback that is coming out as a rookie, other than maybe Michael Penix Jr. Those would be the only two to me that I saw, and I said, man, they are ready now. And I do mean that. Not Caleb Williams, not Bo Nix, not Drake May. The most NFL-ready talent is Jayden Daniels. And if you want another case in point, look at it like this. Anybody remember watching the game against Alabama a season ago? They were in that game, and they were getting ready to knock Alabama potentially out right then and there. But Jayden Daniels got hurt, and that was when Alabama took over the football game. Didn't he leave with a concussion, if I remember correctly? He carried that football team on his back. That offensive line play was atrocious at LSU. Brian Kelly is not that good of a coach. I don't care what anybody tries to tell me. Brian Kelly has not proved to me one iota that he can get anything done. When Cincinnati went undefeated, he dipped out because he didn't want to see Tim Tebow and Urban Meyer. Then he ducked out of Notre Dame, and what did he ever accomplish at Notre Dame? How many playoff games did he win at Notre Dame? Or did he get blown out? Or did he get blown out against Alabama in the BCS championship game? He's never been able to win big games. Everything that his teams have always had to do have been come from behind. He's not a good coach. Talking about I'm a fan of execution and maybe our kids should be executed tonight. Who the hell says that? I mean, seriously. Look, the reality is Jane Daniels had a lot to put up with when he was at LSU. An overrated football coach, a horrible offensive line, a receiving core that wasn't bad, but trust me when I tell you that with all those guys getting drafted in the NFL this year, you're going to find out real quick. Jane Daniels helped make them look a little bit better than they really are. I just hope he's finally get some protection in Washington because he's literally had to do everything on his own. You know, and somebody's going to go, what did he ever do at Arizona State? Man, look, at LSU, he had at least a little more talent than he did at Arizona State. And Herm Edwards, well, don't even get me started on that. I was rooting for him, but it just didn't work out because he couldn't get it done. Somehow he was able to get Jane Daniels. Still don't know how he pulled that one off. Bottom line is, in a few years, we're going to be talking about Jane Daniels. And that's all there is to it. All right, everybody, I am Drew Duncan. The show's fired up, and we are live. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram is all at Drew Duncan Radio. I am wherever you are listening to podcasts. Tell your device to play Fired Up by Drew Duncan on iTunes, iHeart, wherever you're listening. I am there. Google Fired Up by Drew Duncan, my man. I'm going to pop right up, Brody. Thank you again to our guest, DJ Dr. Feelgood, for hanging out with us a little bit today, talking Atlanta Falcons football. Guys, download the HHN TV app, the Hip Hop Network. Listen to your man, Drew Duncan. The show is fired up. Your local programming is next. Don't you dare touch that dial.